All right, so this was definitely one of the best episodes of From that I've ever seen. That we got some answers. Please, before I jump into it, follow me on social media. You can go follow me at Sir_Hunts on Twitter, on Instagram, Sir_Hunts_reviews. Then obviously here on YouTube, Sir Hunts Reviews. Please, if you've been watching my From content, I've made quite a few videos now. We'll continue to cover this season and next season as well, and all the episodes that are going to be covered. So eventually, you'll want to be subscribed. So please go ahead and do so. Yeah. All right. So first things first, the trees. I'm not going in any particular order when I talk about these scenes. I'm just talking about things that excited me, right? And like I said, it's in no particular order. So this actually, the first event we're going to be talking about actually happens like 48 minutes into the episode. There are some events that happened before that I want to talk about as well, but there are 5 things, right? So up first is obviously this thing that Victor's been doing since season 1. He's been measuring these trees. It seems like we see him doing it often enough in the daytime. Obviously, everything they do is in the daytime outside. But we've seen him do it often enough in the morning time at Colony House for me, it means there's something he hasn't revealed. But he mentions that if the trees move, bad things are going to happen. Like, basically, the trees are losing leaves, right? And Victor tells us that the weather always stays the same here, which is interesting. It's really interesting. Something that I noticed, because obviously with it being filmed in Nova Scotia, it's got a northern Canadian wilderness vibe to it, right? Looks amazing, looks stunning, but it always seems like it's like late summer, right? And now things are changing, right? They've killed Smiley. The trees' leaves are dropping. Victor says they're still moving, but it could actually be a good thing. Remember, Ethan mentions, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing that the trees are losing leaves. Maybe the power that keeps the evil things at play in this reality, this alternate dimension, or whatever it is that they're in, right, and from, maybe it's a sign that it's starting to lose its stranglehold on the amount of power that it has and influence over this area. I don't know. I just felt like it's really interesting. We're going to be getting answers for this probably pretty soon, right? I mean, they focused on it for a decent amount this episode, and in my opinion, it's probably related to the bigger mysteries, like the lighthouse, the cobwebs. Remember when Sarah and Boyd were in the tent, they ended up being moved by something. Something moved them at the end of season 1, and that's not really mentioned. So I think what needs to happen is a giant town hall meeting, right? So realize that when the characters have a main cast member, someone who's been there for a while, die, they all meet up, right? When the bus people came in, they were all having a funeral, and that's kind of when a lot of information was somewhat shared. But then we had, obviously, things like the house collapsing and Jim happened to be building the tower at the Colony House. Like, all these different things were happening at the time. So that congregation, so to speak, got broken up. But I feel like when the creatures are allowed into Colony House or kill some of the people from the bus, potentially Randall, that's when we're going to have the group come together for the burial service, and that's when all this information about these tunnels, the trees moving potentially, could be even more shared. But the next scene I want to talk about is Elgin at the very end of the episode. Elgin submerges himself in a bottle. Elgin becomes an alcoholic. Elgin submerges himself in a tub, right? And is doing a ritual that I've seen similar to, I know this is random as hell, but Constantine, the movie, right, with Keanu Reeves, he does a ritual to enter hell, and when he does this, he fully submerges himself in a body of water. Now, I don't know about biblical rituals and Catholicism and stuff, but I'm pretty sure there's something about being submerged in water and it clearing your mind and maybe potentially being able to see demons, or I don't know. It's used a lot in exorcism movies, right? So Elgin, when he does this, remember he's told that he can calm himself by Julie. The conversation that he has with Julie's like, one of the things I do when I'm feeling really anxious is I just fill I fill myself up with water. I sit in a tub and I fill it up to my ears, right? And it sounds like I'm by the ocean. Now, I've spent quite a decent amount of time by the ocean, and that's not necessarily true, although Elgin has a curiosity with water. Remember, in his first few episodes, he asks about the lake, that area that's people at Colony House occasionally go swimming in, right? And then when he does this, he gets pushed underwater by a ghost. Now, the show does this a lot, where they'll switch between like a vision in the character's head that they're focusing on and what's actually happening in reality. Now, obviously, Elgin is not going to be drowned by the ghost vision that he's seeing. He actually seeked this out. He wanted to figure out what's going on with the water. Remember, in his first episode, when we first see him in his first scene, he's like, I've had a dream. This is not good that we're here, right? He kind of sees a bunch of stuff, and we aren't necessarily privy to all the information that Elgin has inside of his head as an audience, somebody watching the TV show. We're gonna say real quick, now that I'm talking about my boy Elgin, I see a lot of theories where people are saying he's the son of Fatima and Ellis and Boyd or something. What the that's hilarious. I mean, not really. Not all black people look the same, people. Like, come on, what the hell? Such a random theory. I mean, there's some kind of merit to it. I don't. If y'all have seen that theory repeated online, let me know down below in the comment section. I don't think it's real at all. All right, next up, I want to talk about the drone. This is really interesting. We find out that Randall, right, who's been excluded from the group, he's forced to live in the bus, has a drone that he was going to get to his nephew. And since he's in hell, he figures, fudge it. I might as well get my money's worth, right? Let me fly this thing around. And of course, he flies it in front of Jim. Jim's the man with all the answers. Although I will say, Jim's sort of like die-hardness for the fact that they're in an amusement park or just maybe some sort of experiment, I don't really get that from his backstory. Like, he's an engineer for a theme park ride. Why is he so suspicious? But anyway, they're going to use that drone, and we're going to get some answers. Now, one of the other things that happened during this scene that Jim has with Randall is when they're on the bus, right, and they're talking, they mention, or Randall mentions, like, yo, you're so hyped up on this being an experiment. What makes you so certain that there isn't one of the people who are living here is in on it, right? In order to keep the experiment going on track, the scientists or the higher-ups, whoever's running the experiment, will need to put a mole in the Fromville, right? Either in Colony House or just living out in the town to keep track of what the citizens are doing, right? Randall mentions this, and since he mentions it, my suspicion on his ass immediately was like, oh, well, that's intriguing. Why would you be the one to mention it? I will say that before, remember, if you're unaware, I watched this show right as the 5th episode of season 2 was coming out. A few days before that, I watched the entirety of season 1 and like the first 3 or 4 episodes of season 2 in like a 12-hour period, right? So I haven't been part of the fandom for season 1 at all, and for season 2, I'm like, late to the game. But there was a lot of rhetoric of people saying, there's a mole. Like one of my first videos I made on this show, someone said, yeah, there's probably a mole in this. And I'm like, what the hell? What are you talking about? This isn't Big Brother. This isn't a reality TV show. And obviously I was quite wrong, right? So this happens at 10 minutes, 31 seconds in, just in case you want to go watch that for yourself, rewatch that scene for yourself. But it's really suspicious the way he brings it up. He just says it so casually. Like, I think if Randall was the mole, well, first off, you all watching this, let me know. Do you think Randall's the mole? Down below in the comment section. Do you think there is a mole in Fromville? But I will say that, like, that's one way to make yourself not look suspicious, right? That's what guilty people think, is like if they're the one to sort of be the accuser, then that makes themselves not look guilty, right? So what if Randall is the mole and he wanted to put them off of his track by saying, well, somebody else is the mole, not me, right? I feel like the mole is going to be if it's going to be anybody, it's going to be somebody from the bus, right? Clearly, all of the citizens from season 1 that are still alive haven't been doing that many mole things. Now, I will say that there are potentially maybe 1 or 2 other characters, right? One of them is Donna's real-life husband. So the actress Elizabeth Saunders, her real-life husband is this dude on the show who had a scene in this episode, Dale, right? It's kind of interesting that I can never remember his name, right? I just Dale, I associate with The Walking Dead, right? And this guy actually looks a lot like Dale from The Walking Dead, minus the, obviously safari hat, glasses, and then camper that they use to defend themselves against the zombies. But he actually looks a lot. Anyway, Dale could potentially be a mole as well because he's, caused drama. When they were drinking in season 1, and remember the monsters were let in because of the dude that was obsessed with the girl that was outside. Remember, he was leaving the demon girl flowers, and he lets her in, and she kills everybody, right? Ruins the party at Colony House. But remember, that dude tells Ellis, don't shoot up the place. And initially, when I watched that, I was like, oh, this guy's racist. He's saying that to Ellis because Ellis is a black man, and they're like, don't shoot up the place. Don't shoot us up, guys. But really, Dale says this to Ellis because Ellis's mom, right, went AWOL and shot a bunch of people in the village. But anyway, Dale has caused drama then, right, by stirring the pot with Ellis and making him get angry when he knew he was drunk. And then also he stabbed Ellis. And then also when he's talking with Kathy, right, he mentions, I know the food shortage. He just seems like he's stirring drama. So in my opinion, the two people that could potentially be a mole, if there is a mole in Frontville, is going to be Randall, right, this guy on the bus, and then also Dale, right. I think I just did a pretty good job explaining why, but let me know who you think potentially is the mole down below in the comment section, or if there even is a mole. And maybe this is just another thing that was thrown in by the writers to keep us guessing about what's actually happening here. Okay, so the conversation that Jade has with Tabitha is also going to lead to more answers, along with the conversation that Jim has with Randall. The conversation between Jade and Tabitha is really interesting because Jade literally asks her, what symbols are you talking about? What caves, right? And they kind of make that connection. My whole thing is these two right here are the wild cards in the sense that, remember, Tabitha kind of went off on her own, built that block thing outside the cave, and the demon babies came out and said, Nkui. She did that on her own. Jade is known to do shit like that on his own as well, right? Speaking of moles, I kind of was just talking about moles. Jade would be another obvious choice for a mole because he's had the best idea about what's going on here. Is that this is a virtual reality thing set up by his company, and it could be something along those lines. But anyway, getting back on track here. If they want to trap the demons in the caves, figure it out. Go pile rocks in front of it. Put cars and buses in front of them. Put a talisman on front of that. And I gotta tell you right now, I did not come up with that idea. That was a comment that was left on my last video. It's genius. It's genius. I was saying you could block off the cave somehow or use the talisman somehow to keep them trapped in there, but that just makes the most sense. Pile rocks in front of the cave, all of the entrances that the demons come out of, and put the talismans there. At least you'll be able to go out at nighttime. Let me know what you all think is going to come of this conversation between Jade and Tabitha down below in the comment section. All right, now saving the best for last. Clearly, they autopsied my boy Smiley. Smiley's dead. They removed his rib cage, found out that his organs are mummified, which kind of didn't really shock me at all. I'm surprised. Chloe Vandersloot, or that's the actress. That's the actor's name. Christy. I was not as surprised as she was. Like, homegirl was like, oh my God, these organs are mummified. Well, duh, they're dead creatures, and they look like they're dressed from like 50 years ago. So if those bodies are real, which they are because it's stuck around in the daytime, their internal organs aren't going to look so good. Look at the outside of my man's face here. Obviously, his inside's not going to look like a normal inside. His insides are going to look like his outside. So I wasn't as shocked as Christy there. But they removed his ribs, and they're probably going to burn his body. Right? Remember, Ricky suggested that. I feel like, nobody really wanted Smiley to die because he's like the best monster. But I feel like this episode confirmed. So R.I.P. Smiley. I don't think you're coming back. Maybe in a vision, kind of like how you did with Christy's girlfriend. But I don't see us getting to see Smiley again. But on the other side of that, he had no blood in his body, which is also not shocking. But he had bile. And that bile potentially is going to be a demon deterrent. So they could just keep harvesting more and more, right? It's going to be turning into like a Buffy type of series. And I don't know about y'all, but I grew up watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so I'm super excited. In the sense that they now have a defense. If you don't know what I'm getting at, well, they can just literally, right? Clearly, they didn't harvest the bile for nothing. It's going to work. It's a TV show. It's TV world. TV logic means that bile is going to work. So they're going to use that bile to kill another monster, and then they're going to get the bile from that monster, and then they're going to kill another monster. And eventually, they could probably kill like 15 of these monsters by repeating that process over and over again. So this episode, like I said, was the best so far of the series because I mean, to be fair, there were separate episodes in season 1 that were amazing as well. But this was just the best for sure of season 2 because we have some definitive answers. And not just one type. We've got a way to defeat the monsters. We know where the monsters are coming from in the caves, right? We know how to potentially stop them now. And also, we're figuring out where and what this place is from, remember, what's going on with Jim and Randall. Whatever's going on with Jim and Randall is probably going to be the answer of where they're at. Boyd's going to figure out how to stop the monster. It's amazing. Like I said, this episode was great. If you enjoy my content, you enjoy my stuff here on YouTube, please subscribe. Please slap a like on this video. Like goes going to be 420. Next episode will be out next Sunday, and I'll be breaking down the trailer when that drops. Que sera, boom, 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 boom. What will be, boom, boom, boom. Have a good weekend, y'all.